Hey everyone, this is Melissa. Expectations. Sometimes we have unrealistic expectations and then they become idols in our lives and we don't realize that we have unrealistic expectations. What I mean by those idols, them becoming idols, a practical example would be, say you have a tall man and he marries a short petite woman, and he doesn't realize it, but he has this expectation, and even the mom may too, that when they have children, the boys will be tall and brawny like the dad, and the girls will be short and petite like the mother. And then the son comes along and he's short and petite like the mom, and the daughter's tall and brawny like the dad. And because those expectations weren't met, then sometimes that can lead to the father or the mother belittling one of the children and not realizing that it's all because of an expectation that they had that was totally unrealistic, because God knits us together in our mother's womb and he makes us the way that he makes us, and we have to be willing to embrace that. But when we have those expectations that we don't realize are there and then they're not met, they become strongholds. They become idols in our lives. It's like the singles out there. You may have an idea in your head of, what your husband or your wife is supposed to look like, or what they're supposed to do, or, oh, when I get married, my wife will do this, or, oh, my husband will do that, because that might not be the one that the Lord has for you. And if you have that expectation, you have that idol, that's going to block you from being able to see the one that the Lord does bring into your life. And once we are married, sometimes we have unrealistic expectations that, oh, our husband or our wife, or they'll just know what we want, but we won't express it or communicate it. That's another unrealistic expectation, because they can't read your mind. And you don't want them to read your mind sometimes. And translating that onto our unrealistic expectations of God, sometimes we get saved and we think, oh, everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows. And we don't realize that when we get saved, we're being enlisted into the army of the Lord, and that it's a battle. Yes, there are blessings, but it's not about us. It's about advancing his kingdom. In Deuteronomy 13, it talks about, Moses sent the people, the spies, in to spy out the promised land. And we know the story. 10 came back and gave a negative report, and 2 came back and gave a good report. So then they spread the bad, and all the other people, they had an expectation that it would, so they didn't go forward because of that expectation. And the 2 that did, but if you look at that, the cluster of grapes they brought, they had to carry on a stick or a rod between 2 people. That's how big this cluster of grapes was. So to me, that would give the expectation of, oh, this land is totally fruitful and abundant and overflowing. But sometimes we listen to others' expectations and we allow it to sway us, even when we've heard the Lord. If we keep our old expectations, even of people, of the way they used to be, and we expect that they're going to react or do the same thing that they used to do, well, that's us putting them in a box in our minds. That's limiting them. That is putting our expectations above what God says about them. That's an idol. Anything we put above what God says, anything that we put above him, that's an idol. And those idols can keep us from going into our promised land. And we have to be careful. And I talked about unrealistic expectations, but then there are practical, real good expectations. It is good to expect the Lord to do what he said he's going to do, because he can't lie. And if he said he's going to do it, he's going to do it. But our expectations sometimes get in the way of him blessing us and doing what he says he's going to do, because it doesn't happen when we want it to happen. And this may sound kind of a nah, but it's not. It's encouragement, because if we keep an open mind, if we allow the Lord to change our lenses so we see others the way he sees them, and we see the change that he's done in them, and we don't just see them the way they used to be, but we're willing to see them the way they are now. If we want to be seen as changed and different than we were a year ago, we have to be willing to see others different than they were a year ago. We can't keep them in a box in our minds, because when we do, we're missing out on what God's trying to say and do through them. Because we are each part of the vineyard. You can't make wine with just one grape. He is the vine and we are the branches, and we're all in the vineyard together. So I just encourage us, and I decree that we will have the eyes to see the way the Lord sees. We will have the eyes and the mind to see and to receive others in their new, changed, metamorphosized ways, to see the change in them that the Lord has done, and thereby allowing others to see the change in us that the Lord has done. We have all grown so much over the last year, and we're going to continue to grow, and we just need to have grace with each other and expect the unexpected, to expect God to keep changing us and to keep bringing us further out of our cocoon into the beautiful butterflies that he created us to be, to bring the glory to him. So I just say we have new mindsets, and we have new eyes to see and to know and to understand and to perceive and receive the new people around us, because they're not who they were and we're not who we were.